This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
How's it going, everybody? Episode number 72 of the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
Episode 72.
I was going to say something before you said 7-2, but I totally forgot what I was going to say, so I just shut up for a second. We're here. We're live.
As by Q.
Yeah, we're better live than dead, as you know. I am Ryan Wolf, at Wolf BLTD on Twitter. Joining me on the line, as usual, the co-host, the man with the plan, Mr. Perez, at MRLG Perez on the tweet bots, and on everything. Every social media outlet he is at MRLG Perez. How you doing today,
That's right.
man?
Yo, man, I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm set up in the mobile studio at my parents' house.
Cool.
Which I call it the mobile studio, but I'm just sitting at a counter with my computer and my microphone. But it sounds so much more luxurious when I say mobile studio.
Mobile studio? I understand.
Like when we say you're on assignment right now, but you're in your car.
Right. Well, you can say mine is technically a mobile studio.
You're in the vehicular studio.
Exactly.
On assignment.
That's right.
You know, I was gonna say around chat. We'll chat at the end of the show because there's some things I want to talk about. But right now, I just want to start with some sports. There's a lot of stuff going on this week, man. Like
there was a good amount of sports going on.
A lot of sportsing this week. Not so much in. We're gonna start off with hockey. Not so much sportsing and hockey, but as we get on to the baseball, to football, lots of sportsing happening there. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's really loud.
Sorry, I turned it off.
Oh, it's okay.
One of my cell phones just went crazy.
Oh, it's okay. We're going to start off with the National Hockey League. The Pittsburgh Penguins pull the trigger, fire head coach Mike Johnson. A move that we all saw coming for a while. Just surprised that it took them this long to pull the trigger because they had been struggling. There had been a disconnect between the coach and the players. And with that team, with Malkin and Crosby and company, you know, you can't if you're not on the same page with those guys, you're screwed. So they pull Mike Sullivan up from Scranton Wilkes-Barre. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Scranton Wilkes-Barre or Scranton Wilkes-Barre. I think it's Bear. Wilkes-Barre, yeah, we'll say that. Scranton Wilkes-Barre, they pull him up. So Mike Sullivan's the new head coach. The other news this week, Minnesota claims forward Jared Stoll off of waivers from the New York Rangers. I guess Stoll was not fitting in very well. They didn't like what he did for the team. So they waived him to give him the opportunity to get picked up by another franchise, and obviously the Wild picked him up, and he will join the team very soon. Now, we haven't done this in a while, Lewis, so I'm just going to give a quick rundown of the conference standings to give everybody an idea of where teams sit at this point in time, it being December 16th, Wednesday, December 16th, as of record time. The Washington Capitals lead the Eastern Conference with 44 points. Second is the Montreal Canadiens with 43 points. Their pace has kind of slowed off since Carey Price got hurt, but they're still holding strong. The New York Rangers are third with 42 points. The New York Islanders are fourth with 41 points. They've been very strong this season so far. The Detroit Red Wings, 38 points, puts them in fifth. Ottawa, 37 points, puts them in sixth. And Boston and New Jersey are tied with 36 points. But Boston obviously in seventh place with the wins in regulation. They both have the same amount of wins, and Boston has played two less games. The Buffalo Sabres currently sit 14th in the Eastern Conference with 29 points. They've kind of struggled as of late. The offense is some games it'll show up and it'll be spectacular. Other games there's no offense at all. So
right, that's true.
It's a point of contention for the Buffalo Sabres at this point. The defense hasn't been horrible, but once Mark Pysyk returns, the defense will improve. The offense, like I said, it's on again, off again, but when they're on, they're good. Also, they could really use the return of Robin Lehner at some point in time soon. Tyler Ennis could be returning soon as well from an upper body injury. Now, moving over to the Western Conference, Dallas leads the Western Conference. Miraculous. They've been spectacular. They've been wonderful. Whatever word, adjective you want to throw in there, they have been it. They've been just perfect. Los Angeles is second. They've been incredible. Like, they've just been, Jamie Benn's been on fire. Tyler Sagan's been on fire. The depth scoring has been on fire. The goaltending has been great. The defense has been great. I mean, you can't really go wrong with 48 points in 31 games. They've gotten 48 out of 62 points this season. That's not bad at all.
No. Not bad at all.
Los Angeles Kings sit second with 40 points. Or St. Louis sits third with 40 points. Los Angeles has one more actual win than St. Louis, so they pull that one. They pull ahead in that regard. Minnesota fourth with 38 points. Chicago fifth with 38 points. Chicago has more losses than Minnesota. One more win, but more losses than Minnesota, so that puts Minnesota ahead. Nashville has 36 points in sixth. San Jose and Colorado tied 31 points. San Jose seventh with less losses than Colorado, which puts them ahead. Colorado, obviously 15, 16, and 1. Well, not obviously, but I'm telling you now, so it is obvious. They wrap up the playoffs with a 15, 16, and 1 record at this point. Arizona, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver have 30 points. So the Western Conference is very close. It's early in the season, but the Western Conference, seriously, from 13th to 7th is separated by a point.
Yeah, that's close.
It's early. It's only December, but they're very close. Now, I want to jump over to WWE now because we've got some big news this week on two different parts. First off, Daniel Bryan continues to ready for his WWE return. Now, the WWE doctors won't clear him, but apparently other doctors have already cleared him. Do you believe we will ever see Daniel Bryan in the squared circle again?
If the WWE doctors will not clear him, I seriously doubt it. But, at the same token, he was one of their biggest names, and they still chant, yes, 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 which he made popular. So I don't know. If he can prove that he is healthy enough to wrestle, and not, possibly shorten his lifespan, then maybe. But if not, then no, I doubt it.
I got into a conversation on Facebook with one of our mutual wrestling friends. I think Daniel Bryan wrestles again. I don't think he ever wrestles for WWE again, and it's solely based off of one thing: liability. If they clear Daniel Bryan and he goes back and gets hurt again or hurt worse, he'll sue the Fed. He'll sue WWE. And you say, well, how and why? Because if he wasn't healthy or not healthy enough or should not go back into the ring, they shouldn't clear him. If there's any doubt that he could get hurt again, you don't want to clear him. But if they say, yeah, you're good enough to come back and he gets hurt again, he can sue him and say, well, look, they said I was ready. I wasn't ready. It would be a very muddy water type of deal because obviously he's been training. He's been coming. He's training with UFC coaches and stuff like that, or UFC fighters and at their facilities. To get back into shape to be ready for his return. He said if WWE won't let him wrestle, he'll go to Ring of Honor or something like that, and that would be magnificent if that actually did happen. But I think the liability of him coming back and getting hurt again is going to put the kibosh on any sort of return for Daniel Bryan at any time in the near future, if ever.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. You have to get back out there sometimes if you want to make that money, but you don't want to hurt yourself even more at the same time.
Speaking of injuries, getting hurt, and not coming back for a very long time, I say this because I'm waiting for my interwebs to load. Sting has officially announced that he has a severe neck injury and will have to have surgery. He appeared on Ric Flair's podcast and says that it's a career-threatening spinal injury. And he said, obviously, that night I had some problems. This is a direct quote, so I'll just say, quote, obviously that night I had some problems. It wasn't his fault, completely mine. I have no idea what I did, but my neck whiplashed on both buckle bombs. The second one, I'm having a casual conversation in my mind thinking, okay, Steve, tuck your chin, do what you know how to do. After the second buckle bomb, he could barely walk. but obviously he didn't quit. He finished the match. Sorry, my page is moving here. He's expected to go into surgery at the hands of Dr. Joseph C. Maroon. He's hopeful that he'll have to have nothing fused. He said it's the same procedure John Cena had to have a few years back, and he's confident he'll return for one more match. But do you think that maybe we've seen the last of Sting?
Yeah, I think it's time for Sting to call it a career. He's been doing it forever. You know, it might be time for him to just finally hang it up. From reading here, it says that he's got 2 spots in his neck that are troublesome. I guess it's called cervical spinal stenosis. Again, this is a direct quote from Sting on the podcast. That's what it is. I have 2 areas in my neck where the spinal canal, which holds the spinal cord, is kind of choked off in 2 different locations. Lucky that a catastrophe didn't happen that night. Long story short, I mean, but we saw. He said that he said the first one, he had a shot going down his left and right thigh down to both fingertips and thought, oh man, you can see me in the ring trying to shake my hands out, getting the feeling back in my hands. The second time, again, having the casual conversation, then for whatever reason, I clicked out, checked out. I don't know what happened, but I did the same thing. This time it affected my legs. Yeah, there was just no strength. The power of my legs was kind of going away, and I felt I didn't have control over them, and I didn't. I had temporary paralysis. That's crazy.
That's scary. And I mean, that's what people put themselves into and put themselves through in the wrestling ring. I understand everyone says wrestling's fake, whatever. And to an extent it is. We've had this conversation before. But injuries are not faked. Injuries are very real.
Very real.
And the fact that Sting could have had his life ended or been paralyzed in the ring shows you how serious wrestling can be. I mean, if he had done anything else wrong, he could have died. Could have been paralyzed, could have been the end of Sting right then and there. I don't think we see him back for a very long time. I think we'll get one more match from Sting, and it'll probably be Sting and Undertaker in a couple years, maybe next year. But really, besides that, I think, that should have been the only match we ever got from Sting, but I digress. That's a beating a dead horse. But, hopefully Daniel Bryan comes back soon, and hopefully Sting heals and gets back soon. I know we don't talk WWE a lot, Lewis, but those are 2 topics I absolutely could not keep my hands off of this week, because we always talk a lot about injuries in sports and
right.
how they affect players and all that stuff. So why not talk about wrestling? Because I mean, they're athletes.
Did you speaking of, since we're talking about wrestling, did you happen to watch Raw on Monday?
I haven't. I heard what happened, but I have to actually go watch it, because apparently, from what I gather, they were in Philadelphia, which, if you remember correctly, Philadelphia is where Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble, and they booed him out of the building. And that same Philadelphia crowd, obviously give or take some people, that same Philadelphia crowd welcomed him as the WWE champion after he won the title, after the show went off the air, and he thanked the crowd. He said, you guys booed me out of this place a year ago, and now you're accepting me as your champion. Thank you. And you know what? I haven't liked Roman Reigns a lot because I think his character is kind of dumb, but I might warm up to him, because I like that stuff. That stuff's cool. To me, that stuff is really cool. Like, that's, the fans make you who you are, and if the fans don't accept you, you're going to be a one and done kind of guy. And
right.
I mean, they played it perfectly from what I hear, from what I read, and what I kind of saw. Vince came in, tried to screw him like they tried to screw CM Punk, and it made Roman Reigns look so much better.
Yeah, no, I always like when Vince is there. Vince makes me chuckle. And the match against Sheamus was actually a pretty good match, but that's not what I'm talking about. Here's what pisses me off about the WWE. So, what was Sunday? They had the tables and ladders and chairs pay-per-view.
Yep.
And they had the Wyatt family against the ECW Hardcore Legends, right?
Which makes no sense, but yes.
Well, yeah, the Wyatt family, I guess, did their stuff, though. They stepped up the game. They had a really good match.
Yeah.
And at the pay-per-view, the Wyatts went over the ECW Hardcore Legends. So Monday night, it's a rematch. ECW Hardcore Legends against the Wyatt family in Pennsylvania, where ECW became what it was. And once again, the Wyatts go over. That sort of thing
pisses me off. I understand you want to push the younger talent, you want to push the newer talent, but you're in you're in Philadelphia, where ECW got its heart and soul, where those guys, shed blood for years. Give those guys a little shine.
I mean, it's all part of the bigger picture, but we'll see how that one works out. I've never liked the idea like that. The Wyatts, their characters are so weird because they'll face one guy, and then they'll just forget it ever happened, move on to someone else, and that's how it's always been. I don't get it. Maybe we'll find out someday what happens, but before we get too in depth with WWE, I want to get over to another type of fighting, ultimate fighting, UFC. Just because you know what's going to happen, Lewis, is we'll get into wrestling and we'll talk for hours about wrestling and we'll miss the entire podcast because we talked about wrestling.
Right.
Like, it's great because even if you don't watch wrestling, you still pick up on it and you still pay enough attention where you know exactly what's happening when you tune in. That's what it's been like lately. But I digress. On Saturday night, or on Friday night, I apologize. I think it was Friday night. Let me think here. Friday,
Saturday.
Yeah, it was Friday night. The Ultimate Fighter finale took place. It was a big weekend for UFC. They had 3 fights in 3 days. On Friday night, the Ultimate Fighter finale took place. Frankie Edgar knocks out Chad Mendes, which puts Frankie Edgar as the number 1 contender for the featherweight title, which was determined on Saturday night. But before we get to that, let's talk about what Uriah Faber did. Uriah Faber won his fight in the preliminary card of UFC 194, and now Uriah Faber lines himself up for another bantamweight title shot. And coming up here soon, TJ Dillashaw is going to face, I just completely blank. I see the face, but I can't remember the name. Cruz. Dominic Cruz. He's going to face Dominic Cruz, I believe. I believe he's going to face Dominic Cruz. And then what's going to happen there is Uriah Faber said, I want the winner of Cruz and Dillashaw. If Cruz wins, it's Faber Cruz. Everybody gets what they want. Again. But if it's Dillashaw, that's going to be fantastic because Dillashaw was in Uriah Faber's camp. They've been buddies. They've trained together and worked together to get up and to get where they are.
Right.
And, Dillashaw just left Faber's camp to go train somewhere else, and Faber said, you're no longer welcome here. If you're going to train somewhere else, don't come back. And we've all wanted to see that. Faber has turned down fights against Dillashaw in the past when Dillashaw was the champion because they're friends, and he goes, I won't fight my friend. But he goes, now I want that fight. So I hope I hope Dillashaw Faber happens because that might be Faber's last chance at winning a UFC title because he's already had so many opportunities and he just can't get past that. He can't get over that hump. I would love to see Faber win
because he's a great fighter.
One of the greatest the UFC has ever seen. But he just can't get over that hump. And you wonder if it might be too late for him. I hope not. I mean, I hope he can get over the hump and beat Dillashaw or beat Cruz. But dude, I would love to see Faber with a UFC strap for sure.
That'd be nice.
But let's move on to the main card. First off, Luke Rockhold destroys Chris Weidman. A 4-round fight that ends at 3-12, like I said, in the 4th round. Luke Rockhold becomes the new UFC middleweight champion. And, dude, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you caught that fight, but it was expected to be a fantastic fight, but I was not expecting Luke Rockhold to completely dominate Chris Weidman. Like, he just took him to school and beat the living piss out of him.
Yeah, he really did. It was not nice.
Sorry, I had to grab some water there.
Nice. But, I mean, at the same token, there was one point where he was just pummeling the guy, and he hit him like 20 times in the head, and the ref didn't call the fight.
They gave Weidman, I can definitely see that. They gave Weidman the benefit of the doubt throughout most of that fight where, hey, I can call it, but, do me a favor and defend yourself and I'll keep this going. And, any other fight that would have been called, but because Weidman was the champion, you give him the benefit of the doubt. Weidman will likely face Rockhold next in a rematch for the title, but Yoel Souza, the fight before Rockhold Weidman, and that's likely going to be the number 1 contender after Chris Weidman. Right. So I assume Rockhold Weidman fights again, and then the winner of that will face Romero. I would believe so, but we'll see how that works out. Now, moving on to the fight that everybody wanted to see, and we finally got to see it. Featherweight championship, the interim champion Conor McGregor versus the champion Jose Aldo. Aldo, who had not lost in over a decade, gets in the octagon. The talk was finally over. We finally got these two men in the octagon at the same time. Rumors that Aldo was afraid to fight McGregor the first time, which is why the fight got called off, because Aldo got hurt, but a lot of people thought he was, I don't want to fight this guy. McGregor, before the fight, was saying one punch and he'll be down, and I'll take him out with one punch, and lo and behold, 13 seconds into the first round, one punch knockout, Conor McGregor defeats Jose Aldo, reaches the top of the featherweight mountain, and becomes the undisputed UFC featherweight champion in just one of the most electric fights I've ever seen in my life. Like, perfect shot at the perfect time, some hammer fists, and it was over.
I have to say, I don't know if it was a perfect shot at the perfect time. Was it a great shot? Absolutely. Did it knock him, Jose Aldo, out? Absolutely. But if you watch the fight, Aldo McGregor got tagged at the same exact time, right in the nose, which backed him up a little bit. So I don't know if getting tagged changed the trajectory of the actual punch.
I feel like with McGregor, he's such an open fighter where he feels like, I don't know if open's the right word, but the way he fights is he'll take a punch to throw a punch. And that's what it looked like there. Like he knew because he kept saying that, I'm going to bait him into making a mistake. So you see Aldo throw the punch, and the way Aldo threw the punch, it opened it up for McGregor to get the perfect shot in. And that's, to me, what it seemed like.
Well, see, I don't know, because they kind of threw at the same time. So I feel like they would have tagged each other. But to me, it's almost like it just changed the trajectory of the shot just a little bit, and he tagged him perfectly right on the chin. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a ton of power behind that shot. It was a sick shot. But I don't know if he was going for the chin or just the side of the face, and him getting tagged changed it a little bit. Either way, it was disgusting.
It goes in the books as the fastest finish in any UFC title fight ever. And it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's just the way the fight went down. The hype was great. The fight was great. I mean, Jose Aldo didn't really remember because he got knocked out, and Joe Rogan made himself look like an ass after the fight, asking Aldo what he remembered, which obviously nothing because he got knocked out. But I know people are on UFC because the sport is very dangerous and very it's just balls to the wall. But I'll tell you what, like, it's for me, it's interesting. I enjoy watching it because I like the technical side of it, the mind games, essentially. Like, if I throw this punch this way, it'll affect everything this way, and I just like, that's what I like about it. I mean, yeah, I like the caveman part of it where two people are beating the crap out of each other, but I like the technicality behind it. After the fight, McGregor said, I wish Jose well, but we're on to the next chapter, which a lot of people think is Frankie Edgar, because McGregor told Edgar, if I win my fight and you win your fight, I'm not moving up until I face you. But a lot of people think that if Donald Cerrone wins the belt this weekend, which I can't even remember what Donald Cerrone fights at, but give me just a second here. Cerrone's fighting this weekend against Rafael Dos Anjos, or I can't even pronounce his name. My Google is not cooperating right now, but Dos Anjos and Cerrone, UFC fight Saturday on Fox, and a lot of rumors rumbling that if Cerrone wins the title, the lightweight championship against Rafael Dos Anjos, it's going to be McGregor versus Cerrone for the title coming up shortly. McGregor's going to move up to 155, which has long been rumored, reported, because as you've seen McGregor on Fight Week, he looks emaciated, I believe is the proper word, where he's just very empty because he cuts weight so hard.
Right.
I mean, either way, Cerrone, McGregor, or McGregor Aldo 2, I'm there. Or even McGregor Edgar, sign me up.
I can see him taking on, the next guy, and then if Aldo wants to go second fight, then I can see a 2 happening.
I really think that what's going to happen is he'll face Edgar, and then once he faces Edgar, if he loses, he'll move on. If he wins, he'll move on. That just seems to be the way to go for me. Well, we'll see. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of time. Either way, it's going to be a fantastic fight.
There will be.
That marks 7 new.
It'll be fun to watch.
Dude, UFC is always fun to watch, but that'll be even more exciting to watch. But that title fight marks 7 new UFC champions in the last 9 months. Speaking of title fights, Rousey Holm 2 is official for UFC 200. And then when that came out, Holly Holm says she also will not rule out a fight against Cyborg, saying she'll do whatever the UFC asks of her. So if Rousey falls again, we may see Holly Holm and Cyborg fight for the belt. Who knows? But last thing before we move on from the UFC 196 was officially announced over the weekend as well, continuing the great weekend that UFC had. And this card, dude, is fantastic. Like, the UFC has been doing a fantastic job loading cards up lately. The main event of UFC 196 is Fabricio Verdum against Cain Velasquez for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, Verdum beat Velasquez, so now Velasquez is looking to get his title back. And Verdum made Velasquez look foolish when they last fought. And then we have Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort. And also, we're going to see the return of Johnny Hendricks, who faces Stephen Thompson. Now, that fight is going to be interesting because, let's see here. I'm just trying to read something fast as I'm talking to you. That fight's going to be interesting because Johnny Hendricks hasn't fought since his failed weight cut a while back. So, right. I mean, if he can win this fight, maybe he can get himself back in the good graces of the UFC and get himself into a title fight relatively soon. And we'll see, but it's going to be interesting because I think Hendricks is a fantastic fighter, but the problem with Johnny Hendricks is you get yourself in the bad graces of the UFC, you make them look bad by not being able to run your own camp, run your own life, and make sure you're healthy in doing so. If you're going to make them look bad, and he did make them look bad. So maybe he'll get in the good graces and we get to see a Johnny Hendricks title fight again sometime soon.
The UFC definitely does not like when you make them look bad.
No, they'll make you look bad any day of the week, but you make them look bad, oh, for shame.
Pretty much.
Moving over to Major League Baseball now, Lewis, how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to chime through, and if you want to add anything to any specific player, I'll just give you a second, and if you want to say something, you can say something. If not, we'll move on. I've got a feeling this first transaction, though, you may want to say something about it. The New York Yankees start off the week by acquiring second baseman Starlin Castro from the Chicago Cubs for pitcher Adam Warren. A very big move for both teams. First off, the Cubs, because they go out and they pick up Ben Zobrist, which is something we're going to talk about next, but it intertwines with this topic. So the Cubs sign Ben Zobrist and deal Starlin Castro. Now, I think that move will pay off for the Cubs because I think Ben Zobrist is more valuable to the team overall long term, or this season. I mean, he's more valuable to the team this season than Starlin Castro would be. But the addition of Adam Warren should also really help out that Cubs pitching staff. And for the Yankees, it makes sense because they've had a hole at second base since Robinson Cano went to Seattle. And, I mean, this shuts the door for Robinson Cano to return. But at least now they have somebody at second base who can play decent defense and is an okay bat. But what do you think about this, Lucas?
No, I think it's a relatively good move because, like you said, I mean, they've had a hole over there on second base. And they needed someone that will shore up that hole. So, I think it's a good move as far as acquiring a pretty talented second baseman.
Now moving on. Now moving on here. Let's see. Okay, there I am. Sorry, my phone is just not working. Technology is not my friend today. The Arizona Diamondbacks make a gigantic splash, acquiring pitcher Shelby Miller. Now, it's a gigantic splash because of what they gave up. They gave up outfielder and Ender Incarte. I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. Shortstop Danby Swanson, the most recent first overall pick, and pitcher Aaron Blair, which is a gigantic haul for the Atlanta Braves. Apparently, Arizona was getting ready to try to acquire Jose Fernandez from Miami when Shelby Miller came across the board, and they went and grabbed Shelby Miller. Now, there's rumors that package that they got Shelby Miller for was not big enough to get Fernandez, but Fernandez is apparently on the board now, so you may see more teams jump on that, which we will discuss here in just a moment. But nonetheless, for the rebuilding Braves who are getting ready to build a new team for their new stadium in a couple years, it's a very, very smart move to give up Shelby Miller.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great move.
And with the Diamondbacks getting Zach Greinke, Shelby Miller now in the rotation, they've got a couple other really good guys in the rotation. I mean, they could turn around. They could turn around and potentially make the playoffs next season because their offense wasn't bad last year. It was the pitching, and now the pitching's improved. So we'll see how that one works out. Seattle acquires pitcher Evan Scribner, a very good move for them. Jerry DiPoto continues to have a very strong offseason. A family suing the Braves after they were hit. I can't remember which family member was hit by the foul ball, but Melky Cabrera foul ball hit one of the family members. They were suing the Braves for damages, but they also request to have a list of PED users be released. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the news and we're reporting it. Now, it would be huge if that did happen. I don't think it's going to, but it's news nonetheless.
Okay, you know what? Listen. Does the report say where the family was sitting when they got hit by a foul ball?
I don't recall, but they were not sitting behind any netting. Now, before you go off, Lewis, because I got a feeling you're boiling, Major League Baseball has instituted new rules this offseason where netting has to be in place from dugout to dugout, which I guess makes sense. It's fair. If you want to protect the fans, it's all about liability. Remember that L word we talked about with Daniel Bryan? It's all about the liability. And while you're liable as a fan to pay attention for a batted ball or a bat or something that flies into the crowd, a lot of times you don't have the chance to react because you're so close and the ball is traveling so fast. So if they can avoid an issue by putting netting around the entire home plate area between first and the first base dugout and the third base dugout, I'm fine with that. I'm sick of seeing adults and children get batted in the face with a broken bat and left the stadium bloodied or unconscious because they don't have time to react and protect themselves.
Please. Listen, man, when you go to a sporting event, and especially in baseball, we see people get hit by foul balls beyond where the netting is and beyond where the dugouts are. We see people get hit by foul balls in the second level of a baseball game, and every time you see someone farther up getting hit by a baseball, it's because they're not paying attention. They're checking their cell phones. And I
understand that, Lewis, but what I'm saying is that when you're in the second level or the third level, that's your problem. It's unfortunate, but that's your problem. But when it comes to being in the area where they're putting up the netting, I understand it because it's very hard. If a ball comes off the bat at 110 miles an hour and it's directly at your head, you have a split second, if that, to react. And if you take that out of the equation and you just protect the fans a little more, I'm totally down for that. I don't have a problem.
So I agree with you. I have no problem.
But if you're paying attention to your cell phone and you get hit in the head, then it's your fault.
Yeah, but it's your fault no matter what. I have no problem with them protecting the fans. If you want to extend the nets. That's a great idea. It will protect the fans even more. But if you decide before this year, obviously, to sit in an area where there's the possibility of a foul ball coming at you, you consciously purchase those tickets. You know, as an adult, what could possibly happen, so that's on you. You can't sue a ball club for that.
I understand that. But like I'm saying,
responsibility. That's taking complete responsibility out of your hands as an adult who purchased the tickets, knowing where you were going to be.
Seeing children, at this point, seeing children hit by bats and balls, I think it's done enough because it started happening so much that Major League Baseball decided they needed to change.
Yeah,
clearly, people are suing teams, and it's not getting thrown out, even with the liability of a ticket. You know where you're sitting. You know you're at risk. People are still.
Don't bring your kids to those rows. People are.
I don't think that's too much of a. I feel like that's a slippery slope you're stepping on right there.
I don't think it's a slippery slope at all.
I understand. Well, obviously, because you're saying it. I mean, why would you believe? Why would you say something if you didn't believe it was true? That's just.
If you're buying a ticket and you're taking your kids, you're taking that risk into your own hands.
And I understand that, but
with the club,
I understand that, but at this point, I think it is fair to extend the netting to protect the fans.
I agree with you there.
That's that. Yeah, that's that. I mean, you know what risk you're taking when you go to a sporting event, but still minimizing the risk of people getting injured and people being killed or permanently disfigured because they got hit in the face with a bat or got stabbed with a bat or hit with a ball or whatever it may be. That's, take the liability off the table. Like if you're anywhere else, yeah, but if you're sitting in those, like it's with hockey. Years ago when a little girl got hit, or a girl got hit in the head with a puck, and I believe she passed away. A puck flew out of play. That's why there's nets in hockey now. It's the exact same type of deal. Like if you're on the sides of the rink, and the puck flies out of play and it flies up and hits you, it's your liability. Watch out for flying pucks. Watch out for stuff. But if you're at the ends of the rink, I feel like the ends of the rink are like behind home plate, where it's the puck is always going there, the ball is always going there. Just minimize the risk. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree with you. I'm just tired of frivolous lawsuits. People suing everybody for everything nowadays.
Well, that's probably a different conversation for a different time. Moving on
I'm glad they're extending the netting. That's a great idea.
It's a good move. It's a very good move. Moving on to more baseball talk here. Oakland signs pitcher John Axford. Seattle acquires first baseman Adam Lind. I'll tell you what, man. With Seattle, with Jerry DiPoto, the way he's worked this offseason, if they don't get closer to the playoffs, I'm not sure what they're doing.
I agree.
Chicago, the White Sox acquire third baseman Brett Lowry, who's most likely going to play second base, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The New York Mets acquire second baseman Neil Walker, which is a very good pickup for them. And then the Mets go on to sign shortstop Asdrubal Cabrera. Houston re-signs pitcher Tony Sipp, who's been fantastic since he went to Houston. And they make a very, very, very big move, giving up former first overall pick Mark Appel in the deal. They acquire closer Ken Giles from the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'll tell you what, Houston got a taste of it last year, and they said, you know what, we want more. We're hungry. So this offseason, the players are going to be a year matured, a year smarter, a year better, and that bullpen is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, Houston's going to be extremely dangerous next season.
It's like what we've seen. I always go back to the Red Sox because the Red Sox have done it very well when they've won the World Series. The last 3 times the Red Sox have won the World Series, what have they had? They've had a shutdown bullpen is what they've had. I'll answer your question for you, Lewis. The question for you, Lewis.
Thank you.
If you can shut it down where if you don't score in 6 or 7 innings, that's ideal. That's how teams build the back end of their bullpen. If you can be successful, like kind of what the Royals have done, where you have so many great arms that if you don't score early, you're not scoring.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happened here. And Houston's bullpen is going to be fantastic. And Houston may very well be fantastic themselves.
Yeah, Houston should be pretty good.
Chicago, the Cubs. I don't know why I always say Chicago, the Cubs, or Chicago, the White Sox. I'll say Chicago, the Chicago Cubs sign outfielder Jason Hayward in a move that should bolster their lineup magnificently or fantastically. I don't even know what word I'm trying to use. It should greatly. That's the word I'm looking for. It should greatly improve their lineup.
Just make up a word.
Fantabulous.
There you go.
It should do a great job to improve that lineup and make them a playoff contender. They may even be a player for the division this year, overtaking the Cardinals, who they signed Hayward from. Seattle signs closer Steve Cishek, who formerly of the Miami Marlins, had an off year, but they're gonna bet on him having a big season, which I don't see why not. The New York Mets lose outfielder Michael Kadire, who retires after one season with the franchise. They lose a first-round pick for signing him. That's a tough blow for the Mets, but it's good to see a guy walk away when he knows he's had enough or he's done.
Right.
A big news out of Baltimore this week as the Orioles pull Chris Davis's $150 million+ offer off the table. Do you see Chris Davis playing somewhere else next season?
Maybe. I doubt it.
I mean, at this point, he's been linked to Toronto. He's been linked to St. Louis. With St. Louis losing out on Hayward, they may try to get Chris Davis. But, I mean, I could see Chris Davis going to Toronto for sure, just because Toronto is like a fringe. They're probably 85 to 90 wins next season, and I feel like Chris Davis may be able to push them over the top.
He would definitely help them quite a bit.
Now looking, let's see. Let me get the signings out of the way. There's a couple things I want to discuss with you, but first, let's talk about San Francisco signing Johnny Cueto. They make a big bet. He has an opt-out after a couple seasons, but very bold move for San Francisco to try to bolster their rotation this offseason by signing Jeff Samardzija, by signing Johnny Cueto. Plus, it's an odd season, so it's an odd year, so they're probably going to win the World Series with Johnny Cueto and Jeff Samardzija. We all know this already.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's they didn't win last year, so
the narrative writes itself. I mean, come on now.
Right, exactly.
No, they're not until they don't win the World Series. I'm believing that they're winning the World Series.
I agree with you.
Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said this week that Pete Rose will not be reinstated by Major League Baseball for a myriad of different reasons, among them being he has not learned, he has not stopped his lifestyle, he still bets on baseball. But he did say the decision for Rose to go into the Hall of Fame would be up to the Hall of Fame. Now, does that open the door for the Hall of Fame to put a banned player on the ballot? First off. Second off, do you think he would be inducted?
Oh, I think if he was put on the ballot, I don't think there's any way you can't induct Pete Rose. He's got the most hits in Major League history. He's a 3-time World Series champion and a 1-time World Series MVP. How are you not putting that guy in the Hall? He was the most picked batter in Major League Baseball history.
I can't remember who said it, Lewis, so I'm just going to apologize to whoever who put this out there. It was a famous baseball writer, but I can't remember what he said. He said at this point, baseball, the Major League not even the Major League Baseball, just the Baseball Hall of Fame needs to step away from the character clause.
Right.
Put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. Put Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame. Put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. But educate the fan base.
Yes.
Say, Pete Rose, greatest hitter in Major League Baseball history, most hits in Major League Baseball history, World Series champion, banned for life for betting on baseball. Put that on his plaque. Or Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds. I mean, with players who haven't failed drug tests but have had suspicions of drug use, I mean, you could say greatest hitter of the steroid era, greatest pitcher of the steroid era, suspected to have used performance-enhancing drugs, but nonetheless, they were the greatest players of our era.
Right.
Put them belong, but educate the fan base. Don't say, we're not putting him in because he was a terrible person, because if that's the case, you can go take out like 3/4 of the Hall of Fame class, either because they were blatant racists or they used performance-enhancing drugs like amphetamines or something like that. Like when, I believe it was Hank Aaron, used to drink amphetamine-laced coffee before games to get amped up. That's not legal. That's not legal at all. When Barry Bonds played, steroids weren't illegal. They were just frowned upon. Now they are illegal in like baseball. You cannot use them. Like the horse pills like Andro. Remember when Mark McGwire had that big home run race? He was taking Andro. Guess what?
He was taking Andro.
It was not illegal. It was totally legal.
It was totally legal. And
That's
at
what I'm
the
saying.
end of the season, he even said he was taking Andro. Like he did it hiding. And so to penalize these people like Mark McGwire, who readily admitted, yep, I was taking Andro, but it was legal at the time. You know, you can't penalize these people for what they've done in the game. That's why I feel that what's happening to Pete Rose, yes, he bet on baseball. We know that. There are so many more egregious things? Not sound like you.
Yeah, you'll get the word at some point in time.
Things that happen that, how are you not putting this dude, who is literally the all-time hit leader in Major League Baseball, not in the Hall of Fame. Now, if he was the all-time hit leader, but had not won a World Series, which he won 3, had not won a World Series MVP, then maybe he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't even think that matters. I think it's just the fact that he is one of the greatest hitters to ever play. Right. But they refuse to recognize him because of the terrible things he did. Educate people. Because what are we going to tell people 30, 40, 50 years when Pete Rose isn't alive anymore? He's dead.
Speaking of 30, 40, right. Speaking of 30, 40, 50 years, how long ago did he get banned?
Back in the 70s, I want to say. 70s or 80s?
Yes. A very long time ago. It may be time to move on and put him in.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure we've passed maybe a long time ago. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's done it to himself at this point because he hasn't changed who he is or what he does. He's still a jackass, very out there, and still bets on sports and bets on baseball.
He's a funny jackass, though.
Well, I mean, it's a lovable kind of jackass, I guess. But, you know,
Pete Rose seems like the type of dude that you want to get together with on a Friday night, have a cold beer with, a nice cigar, and just exchange stories. He seems like that kind of fun type of dude.
Well, because you know he has all those stories, Lewis. Plus, that's right up your alley. So, I mean, you're just being selfish right now.
Well, yes, that's true.
Anyways.
You could come too, Ryan.
Okay, I'll record. I met Pete Rose once, and he busted my balls because I'll give my Pete Rose story. Went to Buffalo with my dad to meet him, to get his signature, to shake his hand and, you know, meet the man, the myth, the legend. I was wearing a Red Sox hat and Adrian Gonzalez shirt because, you know, why not? Because I make a whole lot of sense. So I walk up to Pete Rose, and he shakes my hand. He looks at my shirt and he goes, "Why are you wearing that shit?" And I laughed. And he's like, "No, I'm just messing with you." He goes, "Gonzalez." He goes, "Who's on the back?" And I said, "Gonzalez." He goes, "Yeah, he's a hell of a hitter." And I actually have a picture of shaking. My dad took a picture while I'm shaking his hand while he's talking crap to me about Adrian Gonzalez.
That's awesome.
And he was talking crap to me about my dad's tattoos as well. So, you know, Pete Rose he just doesn't give a damn. Doesn't care. But, you know, I've got his autograph now, so I guess, you know, it's worth a whole probably $25 or something because he signed so many autographs now. It's like the same. This is a different talk for a different time, but that's why you can get a Ted Williams autograph for so cheap. I mean, cheap being $300 or $400, but you go get a Mickey Mantle autograph, it's a couple $1,000. Ted Williams autograph is a couple $100 because, all the autographs he signed after he played because, well, his son was a terrible person. But I guess that's a different conversation for a different time.
Yes.
Two last things to discuss in baseball before we move over to football. First off, Cleveland has reportedly signed first base designated hitter Mike Napoli. And in a big, massive trade this afternoon, the Chicago White Sox end up with third baseman Todd Frazier from the Cincinnati Reds. Or he's going to play second base. He was originally going to play third base. But the Dodgers make out in this deal like bandits because they throw in some prospects and get back some even better prospects. And there's a rumor going down the pipeline that right now the Dodgers are lining up their gigantic pool of prospects for the disposal, for the Miami Marlins disposal, so they can acquire pitcher Jose Fernandez because they lost Zach Greinke. Imagine the Dodgers with a Kershaw-Fernandez 1-2 punch.
That'd be disgusting.
That would be more than disgusting. I think it would be borderline unfair.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. That'd be an unhittable 1-2 punch.
I mean, until the playoffs roll around, because we know Kershaw has trouble in the playoffs. But
that's true.
As I keep saying, Lewis, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If they get back to the playoffs, we can discuss about we can discuss Clayton Kershaw being ineffective in the playoffs.
I think he still has a better record than David Price.
I'm not worried about that.
Oh.
That was such a good burn. I may need to go apply some cooling lotion to myself.
Just saying.
I'm not enthused by your terrible jokes. Oh, I can't. I'm trying to get a story popped up here that we can talk about. But let's move over to football now. Oakland, their one year bet on wide receiver Michael Crabtree, and Michael Crabtree's 1 year bet on himself has paid off. The Oakland Raiders extend Crabtree for 4 years, reportedly about $8 million a season. So that's big for him, and that's big for the Raiders because now they have a fantastic receiver to match with Derek Carr, who has been great this season. For the most part, he's been great. And it's just, it's a win-win situation for both sides. I mean, Crabtree kind of fell out of sorts in the league, bets on himself, 1 year deal with a young quarterback who's talented, and look what happens.
Yeah, worked out for him.
Well, I mean, Crabtree's been no slouch this season. I want to just get this statistic popped up here. I had it popped up, and then guess what? I X'd out of it because I'm an idiot. Okay. Michael Crabtree this season, as of this point, 70 receptions, 779 yards, 7 touchdown catches.
Nice.
So he's had a fantastic season, and it's just going to continue.
Right.
Now I want to move on to this weird story we got across the wire this week. The New York Giants cut DeMontre Moore after he got in a fight with a teammate, Colin Jenkins, over not receiving free Beats by Dre headphones.
I somehow missed this story.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, Colin Jenkins is not true regarding the altercation, but Moore got cut, so something happened.
Something definitely happened if he got cut.
I'm trying to get the story to load so I can read you the story here, Lewis, but NewJersey.com is not working very well. He said, Colin Jenkins says there are a bunch of different stories that aren't, not all of them are true. Moore told his story, but that article won't load because my computer is being a garbage pile right now. Well, it's just I'm trying to...
Dude, you're going to have to back up. I can't get through here.
I'm sorry. Sorry, we just both took kind of a mental break here for a second because I'm getting texts as my phone's blowing up as I'm trying to read this article and tell you what happened. But, come on, scroll down. Yep, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to scroll down when I hit the down button. Okay. Montre Moore confirmed he had defensive tackle Colin Jenkins had an altercation over a pair of Beats by Dre headphones that led to Moore's release on Friday. Quote, I definitely could have handled it better by just obviously walking away, Moore said in an interview that was set up by former Giants punter Steve Weatherford, who was co-hosting the program with ESPN's Dave Rothenberg. Now, this is from directly NJ.com. James Cratch. You can check it out if you'd like to, and you can read the article. But I'm just going to read it verbatim right here. Moore and Jenkins, quote, Moore and Jenkins had a disagreement in the Giants locker room prior to practice after Moore apparently did not receive a pair of free headphones. Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. had brought in a large amount of trendy accessories to gifts to teammates, coaches, and staff earlier in the week. Jenkins was seen on Thursday taking several pairs, which apparently led to the issue. So he got mad that someone was chiefing on the headphones and started a fight.
You a grown ass man fighting over some headphones. You play for the NFL, right? Which means you probably have a pretty decent contract, so you can probably afford some Beats Mondre headphones.
It's like $300. I mean, that's like a snap.
Right. Exactly.
But that's the funny story of the week. Actually, I mean, this next one could qualify as a funny story. J.J. Watt tweeted out he was watching the Victoria's Secret's fashion show and practice at the same time from her film from the week. Then he comes into practice a couple days later and says he's a broken hand, but won't say how he broke his hand. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
My man was, and that's, you're doing something a little wrong if you're breaking your hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting a little rough over there, but either way, he played. He's going to be fine, it seems like. But speaking of broken hands, that transfers me perfectly over to Week 15. Some things happened this week. Week 15? Week 14. Week 14. Yeah, this week's Week 15. Week 14. Andy Dalton fractured his thumb. A.J. McCarron is now the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. Big loss for the Bengals, but it looks like they only need to win one more game and they get the division. And they're still the second seed based on tiebreakers over the Broncos. But Dalton may be able to return Week 17. He will not need surgery. Oakland Raider linebacker Khalil Mack of the University of Buffalo. 5 sacks this week, dude. Holy hell and a half. He had that Denver Broncos offensive line on spin cycle.
Yeah, he did. So
I thought you were going to talk more about that, but you just stopped.
Hold on a second. I want to go back to Andy Dalton. So They said he might return for Week 17?
That's what I was seeing, yeah.
Okay, so the report I saw last night said he might be done for the season.
There have been conflicting reports, but like I said, what I saw is he won't need thumb surgery to fix the fracture, but it's a bone, so it heals. All bones heal. Obviously, they heal on their own. They do what they want. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're not going to rush it back, but it all depends on how A.J. McCarron plays.
Right.
Now, as for Khalil Mack, he's having a breakout season. Last year, he finished with 4 sacks, but he was a fantastic player last year, just getting his feet wet. This year, 14 sacks in 13 games.
Didn't he have 4 on Sunday?
5. Lewis, I just mentioned that. You know what's crazy, Lewis, is if when we're talking about the podcast, if you listen to what I'm saying, it'll all make sense in the long run.
Yeah, no, it will, but I was distracted.
You're okay. As long as you can admit that you were distracted. As long as you can admit they were distracted.
I was distracted. You didn't see what just walked by my car, so
I guess that would make sense for you.
Yeah, it was highly distracting.
In 29 career games, Khalil Mack, as I mentioned, of the University of Buffalo, has 18 sacks in 29 games. Not bad for him at all. Now,
that's pretty damn good.
Moving to last week's pick'em, I'm just going to throw out quickly because I do want to talk playoffs. John wins 10, gets 10 last week. Lewis, you and I both had 9. We'll move on to those picks in Week 15 picks in just a moment. But talking about the playoffs, let me get the letters here. Okay, so Y is division, X is birth, Z is first round bye. Okay, so the Patriots have clinched their division, obviously. Just by tiebreakers and strength of schedule, with the Dolphins losing on Monday, the Patriots clinched the division. So they're the 1 seed right now at 11-2. The Bengals 10-3 are the 2 seed. is the Denver Broncos, who are currently slated to face the 6th seed New York Jets at 8-5, and then the Colts at 6-7. The 4 seed are projected right now to play the Kansas City Chiefs as the 5 seed. Now, Steelers are at 8-5. They're the 7th seed. The Raiders are at 6-7. They're probably out, but the Bills are also 6-7. Their season is likely done as well. But the Texans at 6-7, and the Jaguars at 5-8. That AFC South or whatever it's called, I think it's the AFC South, that's still up for grabs. And with Houston playing Indianapolis this week, and let's see, Jacksonville's playing Atlanta. I mean, that division, Jacksonville could win the division.
Conceivably, yes, they could.
With the wild card, with the wild card right now, it's 2 of 3 are going to be the Chiefs, Jets, and Steelers. So 2 of those teams will make it in. Barring a catastrophic collapse, maybe the Raiders or Bills can push their way in, but they would need way too much help.
They would.
Moving over to the NFC now. Panthers have clinched the first round bye with their 13-0 record. They also won the division. The Cardinals have clinched a playoff berth at 11-2. They are the 2 seed. Panthers are the 1 seed. First round matchup right now would be the 9-4 Packers as the 3 seed against the 8-5 Vikings as the 6 seed, and then the 8-5 Seahawks would travel to Washington as the 5 seed to take on the 6-7 6-7. I'm so confused with that sentence. The 8-5 Seahawks as the 5 seed would travel to Washington, who are 6-7, and they are the 4th seed. Now, the South is wrapped up with the Panthers. The Buccaneers are 6-7. There's still a possibility that they can sneak their way into the playoffs. But what I'm interested at right now is Washington is 6-7. The Eagles are 6-7. The Giants are 6-7. And the Cowboys, who would need a lot of help, they're the 14th seed. They're 4-9. But I mean, at this point, anything is really possible, to be completely honest with you. I mean, nobody wants to win the NFC. Nobody wants to win the NFC East this season.
So we might as well just say the Cowboys are done. That's.
I think they're done, but I'm not counting them out until they're completely done. They're
nice
still
guy.
they still have a chance, and no one wants to win the East.
True.
I mean, that's that. The Bills play in Washington this week. They can mess up that. They can mess up the playoff picture a little there. The Giants take on the Panthers, which the Panthers are probably going to win, barring anything crazy. I mean, the Panthers have been unstoppable so far this year, but crazier things have happened. And then Arizona takes on Philadelphia. So conceivably, all 3 of those teams can move to 6-8. And if Dallas beats the Jets, Dallas can be 5-9, and they'll be 6-8. But again, the Dallas Cowboys need a lot of help. But I'm just saying, again, to illustrate the fact of nobody wants to win the NFC East.
The Cowboys would need a lot of help. The other 3 teams would have to lose, and they're going to have to win out.
Speaking of the East, I think if the Panthers beat the Giants this week, they're probably going to go undefeated.
Oh, I believe that the Panthers are going to go undefeated. And they got the Giants, who are kind of a mess right now. And then they have, I believe, the Falcons again.
Yep.
They already put a stopping on them. And I believe they play the Bucks.
They play the Buccaneers. They close out the season, I believe, at home against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and unless they rest people, which
I don't think they're going to, because they have the first round bye. So why would you rest guys if they're going to give them 2 weeks off? That's just a bad idea.
Right. So I can see the Panthers remarkably going 16-0.
Remember when we were talking, they lost all their wide receivers, and we were talking how they were going to be historically bad, and now they're maybe historically good.
Yeah, really, which is crazy.
Moving on to the Week 15 pick'em. I'm at 125 wins. Lewis, you're at 122. John's at 115. This week we have 4 matchups we disagree on. First off, we all have Tampa beating St. Louis, the Jets beating the Cowboys, Kansas City over Baltimore, Carolina over the Giants, Buffalo over Washington, Jacksonville over Atlanta, Houston over Indianapolis, the Patriots over the Titans, Seattle over Cleveland, Green Bay over Oakland, Arizona over Philadelphia, and Detroit over New Orleans. Now, the 4 games we don't agree on, Lewis John has Chicago. I'm not sure what John's doing here. I'm assuming it's because Chicago's been decent lately, and Minnesota's been kind of stumbling a little with playing good football teams and having injuries. But I think Minnesota will still pull that victory out for sure. Cincinnati and San Francisco. John and I have Cincinnati. Lewis, you have San Francisco. What is your reasoning behind this pick?
I don't believe the Bengals are the same team without Andy Dalton. So I think the 49ers are going to be able to eke out a victory.
I still think, and that's good reasoning. I thought that too, but I still think with the Bengals defense being as good as it is, they can shut down Blaine Gabbert, and A.J. McCarron can be good enough to win against the San Francisco 49ers.
We'll find out.
Moving on to the next game, Lewis, you and I have Miami. John has San Diego. I'm assuming with some recent successes of the Chargers and some recent stumblings of the Dolphins again. Sounds kind of like the reasoning for the Chicago-Minnesota game, but that I would assume is why John goes San Diego. And then the last one of the week, Lewis, you and I have Pittsburgh. John has Denver. John has Denver. John Denver. Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha.
But it's a good play on words there.
It was.
Pittsburgh's been tough to stop. I think they're going to continue to be tough to stop. They've been one of the hottest teams in the AFC, and Denver hasn't been too. I mean, offense still has been great under Brock Osweiler. Been good enough. They've been winning games, but I don't know. I think Pittsburgh's going to win.
Well, Pittsburgh's offense right now is, for lack of, it's firing on all cylinders basically, and they've been putting up monster numbers, and their offense is downright looking scary. So yeah, I believe that they're going to put it on Denver.
That's
how I see it.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. That's what I was saying before, and I'm just going to agree with you. I just saw the Yankees put a photo on Instagram of the sorry, I'm reading as I'm talking. I shouldn't do that. They just put up a photo of Starlin Castro in pinstripes for the first time, so I'm sure you'll want to go see that and froth your mouth over it. But that's football for the week. I said you'll be frothing at the mouth over that photo.
Well, I don't really froth the mouth.
I don't know. Maybe you do. I don't know. I've never seen you excited about something like that. Like, I've never seen you be like, "Oh my God,"
I'm a very even-keeled kind of guy. I don't get real disappointed. I don't get super excited. There are things I'm excited about, so that's not necessarily true. But yeah, you don't really see me like losing my stuff.
I mean, you should have seen me on Saturday when McGregor beat Aldo, dude. I lost it.
I get it.
It was pretty dope.
So there's a guy who just got into his car in front of me.
Okay.
And he put something into his trunk. And after he closed his trunk, he turned around and looked around all suspiciously.
Was he a white guy?
Yeah, he's a white guy.
He probably killed somebody.
Nah. The case.
No, he probably killed somebody.
Probably. You white people.
What case? How big was the case?
Not big enough to fit a body, but it was big enough to fit a head.
So he probably cut the body up and stuck it in the case.
Probably.
These white people, they work in mysterious ways.
That's a true story.
But hey, if you haven't guessed by now, the podcast is over. This is the decompression part of the podcast.
That's right. There we go.
The chilling part of the podcast. The chillang part of the podcast. I want to send a shout out to 26 Shirts. I received my ugly buffalo sweater today in the mail. It is fantastic. I didn't get the shirt. I got the sweater, so I paid a little extra for it. But $8 from every shirt goes to helping a family in need.
That's pretty
Whether
cool.
it be, whether like this, the family that this shirt helped out was a family who husband and wife who wife was pregnant with a set of twins, and the husband passed away. Ended up raising over $11,000 for the family.
Well, that's good.
And this has been going on for a very long time. Lots of money. I think over a couple $100,000 has been raised for families since this shirt since the 26 shirts has started. It's expanded to a couple cities. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Dell does a fantastic job. Everybody who works over there at 26 Shirts does a fantastic job. And I'm very pleased with the product, and I know a lot of people who are pleased. But like I said, I just want to throw a shout out there on the podcast because I like to recognize real when I can.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's a good Christmas present.
So what are your plans for this weekend, man?
This weekend, I'm working. I work Saturday, and then I'm going to Buffalo. And then I'm going to go see Every Time I Die on Sunday night.
Very cool.
A local metal band from Buffalo. But they're pretty popular. I'm not sure you've heard of them, but a lot of people have heard of them. And,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I've never seen them before. So the first show I go to is going to be a Christmas show, which I hear are nuts.
I believe it.
I'm pumped for it, though. I'm very, very pumped for it.
So you know what I found out the other day?
What's that?
So the guy who does your haircuts, Chris Pogue.
Yes, Mr. Poggy.
Yes, him. I know the drummer for his band very well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
I would say it's a small world, but you know like everybody. So
I do. So yeah, I found out the other day that I know I was talking to his drummer, and I was like, hey, I got a question for you. I recently saw you in a picture with Chris Pogue. Does he do your hair? And he was like, no. I was like, okay. And he kind of left it at that. He was like, no. And I was like, oh, all right, my bad. Just curious. He started laughing. He was like, no, he's actually he actually is the singer for my band. And I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome.
They're pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously, I'm a good friend of Chris's at this point.
Tell him I said hi.
I will. I'll make sure to. I'm actually going to see him on a week from today to get my hair did for Christmas.
Your hair did?
Yeah, my hair did.
I understand that. I just got mine done on Saturday.
I just want to look good for. I want to look good for Christmas. For Christmas.
Christmas.
Hey, did you see the news today that Justin Bieber was baptized in Tyson Chandler's bathtub?
I can't say that I saw that news.
Just came across the wire a couple hours ago, but apparently paparazzi was causing an issue. They couldn't go to hotels because of paparazzi, so he turned to his friend Chandler, Tyson Chandler, who was, this happened. Happened, not just happened. It happened a while ago. But it says here, unable to baptize the baby star in the pool of Chandler's building, it was closed during the 2 a.m. mission. The center offered his bathtub. Yes, that's right. Justin Bieber was baptized in Chandler's bathtub. That's being reported by Vice Sports.
I don't know what to think of that.
That's some white people stuff right there.
Yeah, I have nothing for you on that one. Baptized how? Like baptized like the Christian churches do? Like
yeah, like pastor come to the Tyson Chandler's house and just like dunked him in like the bathtub. I don't know how that shit works. I don't religion very often, so I'm not sure how that stuff works.
Well, I religion often, so I know how that stuff works. That's why I'm kind of shocked to hear that Justin Bieber was baptized.
I think it's going to happen. There's an article coming out in GQ about it, so I'm sure we'll hear more. It's just obviously the story breaks now, and we'll buy our magazine and read the rest of the story.
Interesting.
Hey, by the way, Ant-Man came out last week on the 8th. I don't know if that was last week.
Oh, DVD.
Bought it over the weekend. I bought it for Tori, and decided to watch it again. And I must say, I really think Ant-Man is my second favorite Marvel movie. Like I just like how well it's.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like how well it was done. I love Paul Rudd. The way the story flowed was excellent. The whole movie just flowed beautifully. Michael Pena was amazing. T.I. was hilarious. I'm like, how the hell did T.I. get in a Marvel? Now T.I.'s in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, that's crazy. But
Michael Pena and T.I. was hilarious together.
Behind Iron Man, I think Ant-Man is my second favorite movie.
Ant-Man was extremely well done and extremely humorous.
I'm just excited to see.
Enjoyed Ant-Man.
I'm excited to see. I know I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it again for the 1,000,000th time. I'm excited to see. Like, Ant-Man itself was amazing. Now I want to see how Ant-Man fits into the rest of the universe, because for me, to me at least, that's very important. Because if on screen, if they bring him on, like the first time Ant-Man is working with Iron Man, I'm probably going to lose my mind. Like, when they're on the screen together, I'm going to be like, this is the coolest thing ever, because how much I enjoy Ant-Man and how much I love Iron Man.
I don't think he'll be working with Iron Man. The rumor.
They don't have to be working as long as we're on screen together. I don't care.
Right. The rumor is that he will be joining the side of Captain America in Civil War.
Well, that makes sense, because as we saw in Ant-Man, he wasn't a bad guy. He did bad things to bad people, and that helped out good people.
Right.
He's like Robin Hood, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, actually.
I mean, that's. I think that's another reason why I like Ant-Man so much. Just the way the story played out, and then Michael Douglas was fantastic, and just everything, and the way they ended the movie with the cut scene of Michael Douglas's daughter, and I'm like, dude, that sets up the next movie, and then they cut the second cut scene where it's, where Falcon's like, I know a guy. And I'm like, oh, man, that's how they bring Ant-Man into everything. And I'm like, yeah, give me next May for Civil War.
Yeah, it should be good. Civil War, the more footage I've seen of Civil War is going to be awesome. Black Panther looks really cool. So that should
Black
be fun.
Panther played by Chadwick Boseman, who played Jackie Robinson in 42.
Yeah,
I own that movie, but have yet to see it.
Have you seen, let's switch away from the Marvel Cinematic Universe real quick.
That's fine.
Did you see the extended trailer for Superman versus Batman?
I've seen parts, but I haven't had the chance to fully watch it, so I'll have to get back to you on that one. But I've heard good things about it.
They introduced who one of the main villains is going to be, because I believe there's going to be two in this movie. And it's Doomsday. So that'll be interesting, because Doomsday, as anyone who's a comic book geek who follows Superman knows, kills Superman.
You were talking about that, I think, the week before we discussed that. Did you see this happened a couple weeks ago? But actually, you finish your thought first, because I'm going to change the subject. So you finish your thought first. Sorry.
I believe they're also going to introduce Darkseid, which will be very interesting.
I'll probably give it a watch. I don't know if I'll watch it in theaters. I might, depending on what Tori wants to do. I mean, she loves going to see movies, so maybe it'll happen. But I don't know.
Are you a fan of the Star Trek series?
I have never seen. I've seen parts of Star Trek. Like I saw the original one with William Shatner, one of my old best friends. His dad used to watch time, but I've never seen the new movies. It's like Star Wars. Everyone freaks out about Star Wars, and I'm like, what's a Star War? Like, I don't know.
Oh, dude, I'm so geeked for the new one, and yet I'm so apprehensive at the same time.
Like, people say Star Trek is awesome, and I'm like, I've never seen it. People say Star Wars is awesome. I've never seen it. I don't really have the interest to see it. Maybe someday, but not today. But to see people lose their minds over a movie, I'm like, cool. But I'm freaking out about Civil War because I've fallen so in love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
One thing I want to mention, because I'm about to say something about the MCU that's going to get us back into a conversation, but I saw this and I thought of you. The director of King Kong versus Godzilla said the reason he's making the movie is because he wanted to see it happen.
to make sure it was done right. That's why he's doing it.
He acts like it hasn't already happened.
And I'm like, that's good enough reason for me. Like, do it. Do it, man. If you want to make sure it's done right, do it.
It'll be interesting because in 2016, Toho is releasing their first Godzilla movie in about 10 years, which was their plan to begin with when they stopped making Godzilla Final Wars. So Toho is actually reintroducing their Godzilla. And then 2017, it's Godzilla. 2018, it's King Kong. Or, no, I take it back. 2018 is Godzilla. 2019 is King Kong. 2020 will be King Kong versus Godzilla.
That'll be fun.
Now, here's something that a lot of people may not know.
Okay.
The original Godzilla versus King Kong movie, okay, there's actually 3 cuts to that movie. There's the original Japanese version, where King Kong and Godzilla battle. They roll into the water. They go into the water, and you see Godzilla beat the dog tar out of King Kong under the water, and he sends him on his way. Then there's the international cut, where they roll into the water. You see the water churning. You see King Kong swimming away, and then they kind of go underwater, and you see Godzilla standing there like, ha. But it's kind of, the international version makes it seem like it's a draw. And then there's the American version where they roll into the water kind of turns, King Kong swims away, you don't hear anything from Godzilla, they don't show Godzilla, giving the impression that King Kong won the fight. While in actuality, the original cut, Godzilla wins. So I'll be interested to see how they go, in which direction they go with the new American version of Godzilla and the new version of King Kong.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with it. I mean, you give someone responsibility and you hope that they don't screw something up. It's kind of like how people feel with the new Star Wars movie. Everyone's, like you said, everyone's happy but kind of freaked out because it can be great, but if they ruin it, that's really bad. Really, really,
you
really,
just never
really
know what
bad.
J.J. Abrams is going to do. There's a lot of questions floating around this movie. So, but it's better than Michael, the guy that did Transformers. I'm glad they got J.J. Abrams because he did a really good job with the Star Trek series.
I just want to let you know something that just came across the wire. The Patriots have claimed wide receiver Leonard Hankerson after he was waived by the Falcons.
All right. That will shore up their little wide receiver core.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I want to mention, going back to MCU, because I finished Daredevil last week.
What's think?
And dude, it is fantastic.
Daredevil is freaking awesome.
It was like every other show I've ever watched. It took a couple episodes to get into. But, with the 5th or 6th episode, I was like, you've got my interest. And then all the stuff that I was kind of on the fence about earlier from the season all started to make sense, and that's when I completely bought in. And then when the way the show ended, I'm not about spoilers, so I'm going to keep it to myself, but you know what I'm talking about. The way that season ended, dude, holy hell.
Yes.
I instantly wanted more because it was so good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then I started Jessica Jones, and I watched the first episode.
Jessica Jones is going to take about 2 or 3 episodes to get into, and then it picks right up, and it's phenomenal.
That's good to hear, because I'm probably watch 2 tonight, 2 and 3 tonight, maybe 2, maybe 3. But yeah, I'm down. With I can't remember the 4th one, but I know it's Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and someone else. Iron Fist. Okay, thank you. That's what I was forgetting. They're all going to come into the universe here soon. So while people don't like to watch, some people may not want to watch the origin stories. I suggest you do. Like when people were talking about how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is boring, but I just watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the season finale, the mid-season finale. Dude, holy hell. Holy hell.
That's what I heard. I haven't watched it yet.
watch it and you're just gonna freak out because it is so good.
All right, I'll make sure I catch up on it.
Better catch up. You better let me know what you think.
Did you check out? Have you checked out Into the Badlands?
I have not. I've had no time.
Okay, when you get time,
if I'm not working, I'm trying to figure my life out, and that's not going so well.
I understand.
Trying to get all my stuff moved, and as we talked off air, trying to get my stuff moved around and get comfortable. And plus, I'm either reading or trying to watch Jessica Jones, but Netflix hasn't been working for me, so I've been trying to read. Or like today, I could have watched a lot of Netflix, but I had to move the more stuff, and then had to get my oil changed. So it's been a fun day. And now I'm talking to you.
I understand.
You should feel honored.
I am, man.
It's been a fun podcast. Episode 72 has been a lot of fun.
It has been. I gotta actually go, bro.
That's fine. I was just about to end the podcast, so it's good timing.
Good job.
He on the phone being Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. I'm Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to John and Dawn as usual for being the executive producers and putting this podcast up on a Gear Network. Check us out at BLTD Sports on Twitter, BLTD, Facebook.com/BLTD Podcast, BLTDsports.com. We've got some great stuff going up as usual. Last but not least, we can never forget it. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you next week, same time, same place, my friends. Thank you again for tuning in.
Yes.